I'm a self-taught programmer. I've run the gamut from traditional sort of Python programming all the way up to my current weapon of choice, which is Haskell. And I actually learned to code back when I was a Royal Marine Commando on the way to Iraq. I was aboard HMS Ocean, back in 2002, 2003, no 2003. No internet. All I could do was order a couple of books and basically lock myself away below decks with one Python book and one Linux book to, teach myself how to use Linux and Python as I had a bit of downtime on the way to war. So there are loads of lessons I learned as a Marine that I didn't even realise I was learning at the time. It's only been through the process of research and a lot of trial and error running my own teams that I realised just quite how much we did learn as Royal Marines in a completely different context. So one of them is the importance of culture. So the Royal Marines is a 350-year-old organisation. It's got a very, very strong internal definition of what it means to be a Marine and what it means to actually earn your Green Beret. And that is a requirement for building a high performance team. I think people who've been in Google or Facebook all would refer to the places they've worked previously. Another thing that I think we can bring over almost directly is this idea of operational tempo. I talk a lot about OODA loops, which is a concept designed by a fighter pilot in the 1950s. And it's a process of having a change that you try and make in your environment, and then you learn the lessons from that. So it's a continual process of execution and reflection that leads to you getting better over time. So commando development really has three different connotations to me. You have your original founding team, which has to be of a mindset where they can operate in uncertainty. They have to be able to figure things out as they go. Typically people that thrive in an environment like that don't like a lot of process. So in many ways that's very similar to special operations troops. They go in, they don't really have any support or anything, but they figure it out as they go. But at some point you figure out what your company's all about. You figure out what it is you're trying to build. And then you need to develop that initial commando team into something that can be sustainable and scalable. And that's a process by which you start adding constraints, and you start making things a bit more applicable at a larger scale. And then finally, when you get to be a big company, many big companies now are struggling with exactly this. The world is moving quicker and quicker, but they've forgotten how to innovate. So bigger companies also need commandos to be able to spin up the new operations, and then that whole process starts, but it starts with internal commandos, if you like. Sure. So, the tech industry is always evolving, but it certainly seems, as many people within tech and programming will know, is that pace of evolution is just constantly accelerating. So, I think the systems and processes and techniques that we have as software developers and people running tech businesses, they really came out of trying to do this at industrial scale. There's lots of analogies about building buildings and running factories and flow, and it's about trying to drive out variation. Whereas actually when you're at an early stage business, or even just to stay current with the pace of change, you actually have to be much more flexible when it comes to change and variability. So I think applying ideas from ecology and from natural systems is a much better fit for software development. And actually a lot of the practices that are needed have been learned by the military, because they've been operating in chaos for centuries. The biggest intervention I think that I usually have is to go in and look at how people operate, the culture that they've built. You can't really build a culture. All you can do is put the right systems and processes in place around which a culture emerges. So I think sometimes unconsciously, leaders and managers are trying to exert a little bit too much control, which means that they stifle the people in their teams and businesses. So what I do is I come and have a holistic overview of what you want to get out of your team and your people, and then I help you put the right systems and processes in place so that the result that you want will emerge over time. Absolutely love talking about these kind of team dynamics and organization. So if anyone ever wants to chat to me about any of this stuff, I'm always available for a message on either LinkedIn or Twitter as Commando Dev.